This is our ninth talk in the Changing World series. We're very fortunate that a key statistician in our midst has agreed to share with us on this very interesting topic, statistics and the Marxist conspiracy. I can't see how on earth the two are linked. So let him enlighten us. And I refuse to do any introduction of him because he had introduced himself so well to all of us through his writings, through his speeches, and his participation in so many events. So let's welcome Sze Hian.
I want to start by telling you that before statistics and the Marxist conspiracy, I know about statistics and function aid. Function aid statistically a very unique organization. You know why? Because I speak like every week, and it's the only organization ever to ask me if I need transportation to the venue. How gracious is it? William, where are you? I'm a poor man, I take the bus. So I got to live here today. So you are unique now. Of course, when you speak in another country, they will arrange transportation, but never before, ever in Singapore, someone been so nice to offer, say, hey, I come and pick you up, I'm so grateful. Only function aid. No. Another very unique statistic about function aid is, I think, the history of Singapore, nobody has ever upset, maybe upset is putting it mildly, nobody has ever pissed off the government and the Archbishop all at one go. Right. Now, if you study history, this statistic is also very rare, in ancient times, normally the Pope and the kings are at odds with one another. So, both of them off at the same time are very rare. Function aid, you are statistically unique. What has statistics got to do with the Marxist conspiracy? Actually, nothing, So why choose a title called Statistics and the Marxist Conspiracy? To entice people to come. Because I know most of you, most of you are, or some of you were, living in a small room for a very long time. Right? So I thought I had to use a title. So you have been conned, Right? You came for nothing. Statistics and Marxist, no connection at all. But actually, I chose that title because I want to emphasize to you that statistics can always be presented to make you believe whatever they want you to believe. Let me give you one example. We always knew that there are a lot of jobless Singaporeans who go to the CDCs and E2I and all this to look for jobs. And in 2012, what we call the job placement rate was 18%. What is job placement rate? That means 100 people who go to say, I need a job, 18 were placed in jobs. Then all of a sudden, last week, when the new statistics report came out, when I calculate the job placement rate from 18% jumped to 49%, by magic, the rate has increased 2.7 times, 18 to 49%. How come? Wow. They changed the definition. It's no longer jobs placed divided like in the past, job seekers attended to. Now it is called new registrants. So what is new registrants? Well, the difference is that by the stroke of a pen, your statistics has improved from 18 to 49%. So, the misuse of statistics, one of the most often used tactics is what we call change the definition. You want to hear a statistic that nobody knows in Singapore. And a lot of people are very interested. You think the ministers got bonus last year? Nobody knows, right? Now already April, It's funny that although the Ministerial Salary Review Committee recommendation was extended in January 2012, and it was retroactive from May 2011, now it's April, still no sound, no. Minister of bonus. How many of you think Minister will have bonus this year? Raise your hand. Okay. How many of you think don't have bonus? Okay. Now the strange thing is, a very often used tactic in statistics is, if the statistic don't look so good or embarrassing, just pretend that you don't have to tell anyone. It's April already, so I can tell you, right? There are 4 indicators now to pay ministerial bonus. It was in the news yesterday. Civil servant also will follow what they call the national bonus formula. 4 indicators. Indicator number 1, real median income growth. What was real median income growth last year? Minus. Okay. Now under this indicator, to start getting a bonus, you need to have at least 0.5% real income growth. So this one means 0. So if you are a minister, you're not happy, no? Because first indicator, 0. Second indicator, 20th percentile real income growth. That one I don't know, but if the median is negative, chances are the 20th percentile has to be negative. Because median is half the people, so second indicator, also 0, right? Hey, 4 indicators, 2 0, right? How? That's why nobody wants to be minister nowadays. Because after they changed the formula, the first year, 2 of the 4 already 0. Look at the third one. Very interesting. GDP growth. What was the GDP growth last year? 1.3%. So under this third indicator, you must have at least 2% to get bonus, no? So kosong again. Left 1 indicator. But this one is the easiest to get. It's called the Singaporeans Unemployment Rate Indicator. I tell you the story to this. For a long time, every year we ask, how come you only give us the unemployment statistics as resident, that means including PRs? Why don't you give us the breakdown for Singaporean? Year after year you ask, no answer. Finally, last year, early in the year, it came out, no? We have the Singaporean and the PR one. You know why it came out? Because the Ministerial Salary Review Committee took this as one of the indicators, and at that time the unemployment rate for Singaporean was 3.1. And so they set a target of anything less than 3.5, give you maximum 200% level bonus. This must be the easiest indicator to achieve, because 3.1, anyway last year was 3.0. So by my calculations, 0 for 3 indicators, 1 indicator maximum 200%, means 1/4 of the total 100%. And maybe that's why the figure don't come out. You know why? Kind of embarrassing, right? You get more than $1 million, and then your performance is so lousy that you fail 3 of the 4 indicators. And the 4th one is a no-brainer because anybody should get it. Now, another trick in statistics is, if the statistics is no good, I change the population. What do you mean change the population? I change the people inside, then the statistics will change. How do I change the statistics for unemployment rate for Singaporeans? Easy, right? I give away 25,000 new citizens every year. Right? Now, you think they will give new citizenship to people who are unemployed? No, right? So, I've already given you a few examples how you can use statistics to make people believe whatever you want them to believe. I wrote an article specially for Function Aid. Because this morning I just came back from another country. So I was thinking, since I'm talking about statistics and the Marxist Conspiracy, actually end of the year I'm collecting my, this senior citizen concessionary pass to travel. So the mind doesn't work very well. I forgot that I'm supposed to talk about statistics and the Marxist Conspiracy. So maybe I just write down here until I forget this part. So when William said, do you need a whiteboard? I said, yeah, better, because we forget. The Marxist Conspiracy has a lot to do with statistics. Because in my view, the story, the issue of the 1987 Marxist Conspiracy has not really been examined closely enough from a statistical perspective. What am I saying? Why do you think all these people were detained in 1987? If you study history, statistically, what is the most effective way to stay in power and to silence your critics? Not sue you for defamation, right? Actually, it's one of the ways. But historically, if you study, what is the most effective way? Simple. You arrest people, frighten everybody, then nobody will oppose you. I'm going to give you one statistic to give you an idea why 1987 is what I call the beginning of the end for Singapore. So in 1987, I think the reason why all these people were detained is they just want to frighten everybody else, because you see from 87 onwards, a lot of big changes which I will describe, and there were no more dissenting voices, Nobody dared to speak up anymore. I was a young man then, I know one person who was detained, not very closely. And we all said, wow, better don't open your mouth, right? So overnight, they killed if at that time you have a thing called a national conversation, he died, right? The day you all went in, in detention. And I think that's why they did it. Now what's more important is, what were most of these people who were detained doing? Vincent, what were you doing then? You're helping poor people, right? You're like social worker, right? So today everybody is doing it, right? How come they don't get detained? The problem statistically is this: if you go back to 1987, and if you have a lot of people helping people, disadvantaged people, and so on, then you create awareness, When you create awareness, people will talk. When people will talk, someone will ask the statistics. And that's where governments are most afraid of. You see, governments can always say, oh, every country got poor people, right? You don't have unlimited money to help everybody. But if more people are aware, more people talk, then people, imagine that in 1987, that time only Mr. Jiang Xitong left in Parliament. If you all had continued to do what you do, one day you go to Parliament, you ask for the statistics, And that is a problem for all governments. So I think what we need to try to figure out is, for example, how many poor people were there in 1987 in Singapore? The interesting thing is this: if you extrapolate if you can get the statistics, how many poor people in 1987 over whatever is the Singapore population then versus today, right? And then you can see whether things have gotten better or not. No. It's possible that there are even more poor people today after adjusting for the population increase and the inflation and the pay than in 1987. Now, can you imagine if one day you see in the newspaper headlines, the poor in 1987 actually less than the poor in 2013, then no need to go for election in 2016, right? So statistics can be very powerful, So this is one area I personally feel that has not been examined. Now, when you say how many poor people, then the other question even more difficult, I think more significant. How poor are these people? Now today, right, how poor are these people? I give you some statistics that you may not be aware of. In 2006, there was one media report that said they had a database of Malay Muslim beneficiaries of financial assistance in Singapore. You know how many people in the database? 105,000. If you have 105,000 in one community, which at that time was only 15% of the population, how many poor people ever receive financial assistance? Now, this question you can ask every year, you never get answers, The Comcare statistics, they will tell you, last year 70,000 people applied, then 70% get it, but they never tell you how many people are still receiving assistance. They don't tell you the new people who apply. They also don't tell you how long they get assistance or how much money they get. They always pick one family 10 children, 2 disabled, to show, you see, we pay so much money to them, right? But clearly when you look at the numbers, they don't make sense, because the last statistic we have is they were helping like 28,000 families, right? And the total payout was only like 80 million. You divide all this, you get about $100 a month only. Right? So statistics can be like firecracker, can be very dangerous. Right? So if you can, whether you can find the statistics or even anecdotally, anecdotally meaning the people who were there in 1987, they can tell you, I was earning how much was a bus driver earning in 1987? Then you can relate to the SMRT issue, Then you can maybe come to the conclusion, after adjusting for inflation, the driver today actually got less money than, even in 1987. Right? So, are they poor people? How poor are they? Then you can keep asking even more questions. Well, if you are poor, what's the problem if, you have a job, right? Right. Then if you extrapolate to today, then you say, okay, are there a lot of people who don't have jobs? Now, over years, nobody believes the unemployment rate anymore. You know why? I'll give you an example. They can give you the unemployment rate breakdown into Singaporeans and residents, but they have never broken down the jobs into Singaporeans and PRs. In other words, like last year they say, we are curtailing the influx of foreign workers. So instead of 80,000 foreign workers the previous year, last year dropped to 70,000. Sounds very good, right? Locals, previous year, 30,000. Last year increased to 50,000. Very good, right? We are helping locals to get jobs. 30,000 to 50,000. You know what's the problem? This is one trick in statistics, and that is make the definition unclear so you cannot figure out really what is the real statistic. Now, if you look at the numbers, 80 to 70, 30 plus to 50 something, what is the proportion of jobs that went to foreigners last year? 55%. 45% went to locals. But the locals include PRs, right? So if you adjust for PRs, let's say we assume that 20% of the 45% of the locals are PRs, then you end up with only 36%. What does that mean? It means 64% were foreigners, 36% were Singaporeans, and you call that curtailment of the influx of foreign labor? So statistics are very interesting. What else? Job is one thing, right? You have a job, but what's the pay? What is the pay? I don't know. In 1987, what was I doing? I can't remember, too long ago. Right. I tried to find 1987, what is the median income there? Cannot find, no. See, in the library, they used to have all the hard copies there, now all disappearing. If you can find, I think it will be an very interesting exercise, right? To relate to what you were doing. And maybe that's why you were detained, right? And then compare the figures then to today, and I can guess in some of them it may be even worse. Now I said 1987 is the beginning of the end. I'll tell you why. Before 1987, government was not as stingy as they are today. In 1986, the university tuition fee was only $1,200 a year. In 1987, they increased it to 2,000. 67% increase in 1 year. Right? Did anybody make any noise? Don't have. Why? Because after your detention, who dared to open the mouth? Right. So the Marxist Conspiracy is a disaster for what I call the voice of Singaporeans. Because I think for the next 10 years or so, nobody dared to speak up. Even Catherine Lim went into, I think, hibernation, right, for like 10 years. Right. If you imagine there was no detection and you increase the university fees by 67% in 1 year, look, every other country in the world today, they don't just increase a little bit, what will happen? There will be riot in the streets already. But of course, because of you, Nobody protested. No students protested. Nobody went to protest. Those days don't have speaker corner, I don't know, right? Right? So 1987 is the beginning end. You know why is the beginning end? From 87 to 2012, you know what's the increase in the tuition rate? 7.5% per annum. That's for normal course. For accountancy and business, 7.9. For law, 8 point something. Medicine is the worst, 11.2% increase. Now, inflation during this period, the same period, 86 to 2012, was only about 1.9%. So inflation is 1.9, and then you increase the tuition by as much as 11.2% per annum. Then of course you have related, what about government spending? You know what was government spending from 1986 to 2013? Now, I cannot find the figure, but one reader sent me a newspaper cutting in 1987 quoting the then education minister saying it cost the government $14,400 to educate one university student. I can tell from the Ministry of Education Digest in 2012 how much they spend per student. So I can look it up. You know how much the government spend every year increase for education from 1986 to 2012? 0 point something percent. It's like 1%. Right. So 1987 is like the beginning of the end, you know, when government spend less and less money and people ended up spending more and more money. And you can translate this not just to education, you can go to healthcare also. Look at healthcare. It used to be that 75% of healthcare spending was government, 25% was private spending. Now, it's government 1/3, 2/3 private spending. And I can go on and on. But the point I'm trying to make is that statistics has a lot to do with the Marxist conspiracy. Because you score, you know, like I say, you bore the cross, you know, right? Because of you, everything that they did in the next 10 over years, all the significant changes, there were no voices. And maybe only one lone voice in Parliament, Mr. Cham Chitong. But you know, one lone voice in Parliament, I know Mr. Cham very well. So he used to tell me, at one time you have a lot of volunteers, you know, people will help him do calculations for him. Then after that, all of a sudden, all the volunteers like run away, you know. Why? Because of you, right? Right? Yeah. I mean, you don't need statistical evidence, no? When people are decaying, okay, everybody, all the parents will tell the children, don't you dare to say anything against the government. Don't you dare come to 22 Marshall Road and, you know, listen to this talk. Right? The whole voice of Singapore died. Thanks to you. Okay. I mentioned I wrote one article for you today because I just came back from this country this morning. This country, free healthcare, free education, free land to build house, free pension, no income tax. So I wrote the article, I posted it, the online citizen posted it a few hours ago. Well, already I saw like 80 people commenting already, right? Because I didn't name the country. Now I'm going to do a little exercise with you, participate with me. I want to try to give you an illustration of how to use or misuse statistics. Okay? Now, you see this article that talks about this great paradise country, right? It doesn't mention the country's name. Open your mind. Don't look at the statistics. Close your eyes and think. Open your mind. From what perspective or dimensions can I look at these statistics without actually thinking about the statistics? See, the most common mistake I think people do when they analyze statistics is they look at the statistics, they analyze the statistics. But the really, what I call significant discoveries has nothing to do with the statistic itself. It is the different perspectives and dimensions that you think, that make you think of the statistics in a way, in many ways, that's got nothing to do with the statistics. So help me. You see this article, what are some of your thoughts? Anyone? Okay lah, right? Anything else? What are some of your thoughts? You are Singaporean. What's the first thing that comes to your mind?
Retire there.
Retire there. So you'll probably say, hey, Brunei is better than Singapore, right? Okay. Then, what else will come to your mind?
What's the tax rate in the country?
Huh? What's that?
Tax rate.
There's no tax rate, there's no income tax. Okay? So it's paradise, everything is free. So, anything? Let me hear.
Nightlife.
Huh?
There's no nightlife.
There's no nightlife. Actually, they drive to Miri life. Okay? But anything else? How many people are there? Ah, okay, right? So, then you want to say, okay, there are 400,000 people in Brunei, right? How many Singapore citizens today? It's about 3.3 million. So it's about 8 times more. Okay? So then the obvious question is, can Singapore be like Brunei? What does Brunei have that Singapore don't have? Oil, right? Okay? But what does Singapore have that Brunei doesn't have? But Lee Kuan Yew cannot come out with. Actually, we have to give credit to Lee Kuan Yew because Lee Kuan Yew has given us a resource that is even better than Brunei's oil. What can it be? Our reserves. Look, oil one day will run out, right? A lot of people are saying, oh, you cannot be like Brunei. One day the oil will run out. So how can Singapore compare to Brunei? You don't have oil. Yeah, but thanks to Lee Kuan Yew, you have a lot of reserves. Let me just give you some numbers. I think don't use the board because the board is like small and facing there. Those at the back, you will be frustrated. Why this guy writing on this board, then you are looking over there, so I will use the board. The population of Singapore is about 8 times, right? Of Brunei, right? Okay. How much does Brunei spend using oil revenue a year, roughly? It's about 5 billion, right? Okay? So, to make it simple, 5 billion times 8 is 40 billion, right? So if Singapore somehow can, by magic, cough up another 40 billion every year, then we can be like Brunei, right? Of course, it's a very simplistic example because we're not counting like how much money we are collecting or that. We're just saying, okay, we spend 40 billion, can we be like Brunei? Do we have 40 billion? The answer is nobody knows. Why nobody knows? Because how much reserves we have is secret. Right? If the reserve is secret, then how much returns do we have? Actually, they tell you, but I look at the numbers, they don't make sense at all. I tell you why. Now they say you can use half the NIRC, the net investment return contribution to the budget every year. Last year was 7.7 billion. Now half is 7.7, so times 2 must be 15.4 billion, right? Okay. Now, even our most famous newspaper has very conservatively estimated that our reserves must be at least 800 billion. Now, for simplicity's sake, I just use 1 trillion, easier to understand. 1 trillion, if the return is 6%, how much a year? 60 billion, right? 5%, 50 billion. So, if half the return is 7.7, then the total return is 15.5. What are you telling me? The reserves only give a return of 1.5%? If that's the case, you need to sack everybody at Temasek and GIC, right? So, many things in Singapore don't add up once you go deep before you dig into the statistics. Now, Singapore is a wonderful country. You know why? You can have different sets of statistics at the same time, so on the same thing, lying around in different reports from the same source. Let me give you one example. What is our budget surplus? Last year was 3.9 billion. The original estimate was 1 point something, from 3.9. But if you look at the Department of Statistics monthly digest of statistics, it says the budget last year was 36 billion. How can two different reports, one is 3.9 and one is 36 billion? There's a footnote in the Department of Statistics digest. It says they are using IMF reporting standards which define revenue more broadly than how it is defined in the budget. Simple language means a lot of revenue that we don't count in the budget, by IMF standard you are supposed to count. That's why it's in the BOS statistics. So every other country will count, but Singapore won't count. Not only that, there are money that we spend, which by IMF standard cannot be counted as expenditure also, we also count. So we are under-reporting our budget because a lot of revenue we don't report as revenue, a lot of expenditure is not supposed to be expenditure, we record as expenditure. Okay, back to my original question. We need 40 billion to be like Brunei, right? Just the budget difference, it already 36 billion. I haven't even go to the net investment return. If it's 6%, it's 60 billion. If it's 5%, it's 50 billion. No, the money is there. Of course, we are all speculating because we look at the numbers, they don't make sense, then we do the calculations. A lot of money that we claim that we spend actually cannot be counted as spending, no? Every year we transfer money to endowment fund, Medifund, Silver, Comcare Fund. We transfer a few hundred million, and then we use the interest of 4%. Now, by IMF standard, you cannot count that as expenditure, because you didn't spend the money. You're putting it somewhere and then just using the interest. So that is why our reporting of the budget is what you call overbalance. Okay. Now, the argument given to you is quite nonsensical. I give you some examples. We always ask, why can't you tell us how much reserves you have? The answer is, if we tell you, then Singapore's expectations will be raised. This is a classic, what we call, don't give you statistics by giving you, I don't know what, this one is pure nonsense. It's like, I don't want to be transparent, I don't want to be accountable, because if I tell you, you expect too much of me. Can you imagine, one of your uncles, say, hey, give me all your money, I go and, make money for you. Then you ask your uncle, how much money left? I cannot tell you, no? Because I tell you, expectation will go up. Then you ask your uncle, then how much return is this thing making? I cannot tell you also. But there's a different reason for not telling you. Some of them will tell you, I cannot tell you what we invest in because then people will know that they can attack Singapore if they know what we are doing. Right? This is pure nonsense, you know why? You don't have to tell us what you did last year, you can tell us what you did last 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. That kind of outdated information that has no bearing at all, right, on this excuse that people will come attack you. In fact, because it is secret, a lot of people are speculating that the CPF must be gone now. All kinds of speculations going on the internet. One Beijing professor says, either the money is not there or is hidden somewhere, or the return must be zero, or all kinds of stuff are going on. Right? What they need to do is to be transparent. Now recently, a minister was interviewed in New York. So they asked him something like, do you think the government will be more transparent? Yeah, we'll be more transparent. Don't you think government should just be transparent instead of being more transparent? You laugh, right? You know how many years you spend in a cell, right? Because of all this. If you will not detain, others will start asking questions. So all the statistics died because of you. That's why I call this talk Statistics and the Marxist Conspiracy. Okay? Because over the years, all kinds of strange things right, start to happen with the statistics. I'm going to stop here for a moment and take some questions. Otherwise, one person keep talking, very boring, right? Okay, so questions, anyone? The thing about statistics is have an open mind, right? Ask anything you like. What you do is nothing to do with statistics, anything under the sun.
So are you saying that the surplus last year was nearly 40 billion instead of 3.9?
To be exact, it's 36 billion instead of 3.9 by IMF standards.
Can you elaborate?
Okay, by using IMF standard, the land sales is counted as revenue. Now, Singapore's excuse often given is that the land sale cannot be counted as revenue because we are converting capital to cash, so it is not revenue. Ask any accountant in the world that tell you this utter nonsense, okay? You mean you convert capital to cash, then it's no longer revenue? Now, the other reason given is that land is limited in Singapore. One day it will dry up. Therefore, we don't count land sales. I tell you why this one is rubbish. In Singapore, all land is sold on a leasehold basis. Under the Land Acquisition Act, they can acquire land anytime they want, anywhere they want. So how can the land ever run out? So your land sales is not counted. Your net investment return, they only count half of it in the budget. The other half also not counted. And then the transfer to endowment fund, they count as expenditure, much of it cannot be counted. So you add these three things together, that accounts for the difference between 3.9 and 36 billion. But like I said, the net investment return is simply too low at, say, 15.4 billion. It has got to be more. If it's not more, then everybody at Temasek or GIC will resign already, because how can the return be so poor? No, it's very strange, Mrs. Lina Chang asked a very interesting question in Parliament. Most of you may have missed it. I realize that interesting questions in Parliament often are never reported in the media. It's as if they don't want people to see funny things. See, Lina Chang was apparently asked, how come the GIC now only report its return in US dollars? In the past, it used to report in US dollar and Sing dollar. So the answer was this, listen to this one, classic, right? Oh, we now only report US dollar because we don't want to confuse Singaporeans. You see, other countries all report US dollar, so we report Sing dollar or US dollar together like before, it will confuse you. And that's why we don't report. Two problems, First problem. I can just take a calculator and go to MAS website and check what is the US dollar exchange rate like, so I can do the numbers. But of course, most people don't bother. But what is even more significant to me is this. If a member of parliament asking a question, what is your return in Sing dollar? Your answer is confusing for Singaporeans. So are you saying you'll be confusing for all the 80 over parliamentarians as well? You're making a mockery of parliament. You're saying all the MPs are stupid. If I give you the answer to this MP's question, that will confuse all of you also. And the best part is none of the MPs spoke up on this issue. Of course, you know the reason why, okay? Maybe Angela can explain why the opposition also don't speak up, but actually, all my friends in Workers' Party, so I think I know the reason, because it is called, in battle, you either be offensive or defensive. So if you offense too much, sometimes you may say the wrong thing. So, I'm not taking a judge at my friends in the Workers' Party. I'm saying that's the state of affairs in the Singapore Parliament today. The whole world is laughing at us. The things that happen in Parliament, the whole world is laughing at us. So, because of answers like this in Parliament, people like me, amateur statistician, have to spend time to try to calculate the returns, which I did. So I give you the answer. GIC returns, US dollar terms, real return, last 20 years, according to GIC, was 3.9% real return last 20 years. After I adjust to Sing dollar and inflation in Singapore, the real return in Sing dollar was 2.5% real return for the last 20 years. Never mind, the 5-year one even better. 5-year US dollar. And here they only give you the nominal returns. Sometimes they give you nominal, sometimes they give you real, sometimes it's real nominal, so it's like chameleon, always changing. Right? So for the last 5 years, the nominal return 3.4. After I adjust for Sing dollar and inflation, I came up with a real Sing dollar return last 5 years of minus 4-point-something% per annum. I think very difficult to find any sovereign wealth fund or any fund manager in the world to have this kind of stellar return, Cannot find one, Right now. Right. So Statistics are very interesting. If you take the chapter, and every day have, Just before I come, I read the newspaper. I saw you have a video here. Don't mention the newspaper, but I show it to you so you know which newspaper it is. Today's newspaper. A simple tactic in what we call confusing people with statistics is to say one thing and then show something else and assume that people don't have calculators. So this is a classic example, right? Because it says here that where's the headline? Yeah. BTO flat prices stabilized. We keep hearing this, right? So they cite you statistics. You see, I give you 3, 4, 5 room flat from 3 different places: Punggol, Sengkang, and Tampines. Wow, see, no change, little. Okay, yeah. Let me give you one. 3 room flat in Punggol. Sorry, not Punggol. 3 room flat in. Sorry. 3 room flat in Sengkang in 2010, 120,000 to 170,000. Come to 2012, 150,000 to 190,000. So the cheapest 3 room flat in Sengkang, you divide 150,000 today by 120,000 in 2010, it's like a 25% increase now. 25% increase in the cheapest flat now is called flat prices stabilizer. And not only that, they didn't give you all the data. They pick and choose only 3 sets of data to show you. So you can speculate. If this is the best that you can show us, you show us everything like striptease. What you don't see will be more interesting than what they are showing you. Right? Some more questions, please?
When we talk about land lease, right? All our homes are basically on lease. They've never described to us what they will do when our lease is up. Is there any case so far in Singapore?
No HDB flat have reached 99 years. Okay. But it's a very interesting question because a few years ago, somebody wrote a letter to one of the forum pages and asked, what happens when the lease expires? The answer came, when the lease expires, then the house is no longer yours. Right? But here's the catch. And this is a political issue, and that's why people like Vincent, you may never win the elections. Serious. This is the real hammer, This is the one that frightens everybody, that nobody will vote opposition. So keep your fingers crossed. Come 2016, don't take this big sledgehammer, okay? The old sledgehammer was, you don't vote for me, I don't upgrade your flat. Right. The new one is even worse. They have changed the rules on use of CPF for HDB flats. Let me give you the bottom line, simple example. Once your HDB flat is like 34 years or older, the person who buy from you will be restricted in the use of the CPF to buy your flat. So unlike a person today who can use 100% of the CPF to buy a BTO or resale flat, if you have a very old flat, whoever buy from you may only be able to use 50% of his CPF. Because he has the money, he cannot use, because of this restriction. Now, all the flats eventually are getting older, right? So if the flats don't get en bloc, selective en bloc redevelopment, then you have this X hanging on your head, right? Word opposition, I don't give you en bloc. You try to sell your house, and the buyer realizes that he's going to use 50% of CPF. What do you think will happen? Either nobody buy, or your price will be very low. So Vincent, you have been forewarned. Be prepared for this one, right? Because the rules have been changed already. And it was so nicely changed that nobody even asked anything. Not in Parliament, the newspaper, blogs, nothing. Anyway, I wrote one article of this, so nobody bothered. So the good thing is, if you are an amateur statistician, and every other day you're writing about statistics and you're making fun of people, and nobody responds to you, it's very good. You know why? You can write rubbish for all you can because nobody cares. Now, The interesting thing about statistics in Singapore is, which is what I would term as a very alarming trend in Singapore today, is that when the statistics are bad, somehow a study will be commissioned to fly in the face of what every study has shown. I give you one example. Last week, I think it was Friday, they paid $100,000 to commission a study to come to the conclusion, listen to this, that poor children are no worse off than rich children. You're all laughing, right? Every study I've seen shows that in Singapore, the poor children are worse off than the rich children. And here they can spend $100,000 to do a study to conclude that they are not worse off. Another example, they commissioned a retirement study last year. I don't know how much they paid. The conclusion was, Singaporeans are one of the best countries in the world in regards to preparedness for retirement. Your retirement replacement rate is even higher than the OECD average. Listen to this. Median income worker can replace 70% of the income when they retire. Before this study, every study shows that Singapore is one of the worst countries in the world when it comes to preparedness for retirement. We are around the level of like Indonesia now, replacement rate. So all of a sudden this study come up. So anyway, when I look at the report it was so interesting because the assumptions in the report are what we call statistical cream de la cream of the statistical misuse. In this report, they assume, listen to this, by the time you're 38 years old, your real income starts to drop. By the time you're 55, your real income is equal to when you're 33. And then they stop there. They say, oh no, we don't use, although retirement is 65, they're going to use the 55 figure to calculate your replacement income. You know why? Because by 65, you see it's below 30 years old. So they start 55. If they use the same methodology and go all the way to 65, nobody in the world will believe this study, because then you will show that maybe they will replace 80 or 90% income. This is the first problem. Second problem, the study assumed that since most of you own your HDB flat, you're supposed to pay rent, right? Since you didn't have to pay rent, they will include the rent as like it's income to you, So it's not real money. Right? Not only that. Then they assume that there will be periods of unemployment, so they assume something like 15% of the time you have no job or unemployed, so they discount that one also. So they arrive at an actual cash retirement figure that to the layman has nothing to do with what you think is. It's not 70% of what you earn when you retire. It's 70% after adjusting for rental that you have paid, periods that you are unemployed, real income that is discounted to 33 years old, right, by the time you are 65. Now, no other country in the world, right, will do a study like this, It flies in the face of common sense, Right? It's insulting to, I hate to say it, insulting to statisticians. Luckily, I'm not one of them. Okay, questions? Because if I keep going on it'll be very boring, right? All statistics. I think I open the questions now, rather than. Yes.
I'm still curious about our national reserve. So if you could calculate the rate of return is minus 4% the last 5 years, is there a way to calculate back to how much is our base and how much is our reserve to earn or to lose 4% every year?
Almost impossible. I'll tell you why. Temasek says he has 17% returns in the last 34 years. Probably the best fund manager in the history of the world. Okay. Now, the reason why I say it's not possible because over the last 34 years, there were cash injections from government into Temasek. Okay. Then there were state assets that were transferred to Temasek, and then they privatized it. So it's like I transfer something to you, book value $1, Then go IPO, the price become $10. Then I value to $10. Wow, I made a profit of $9. Right? So we suspect that we don't know why. Temasek is a private exam company. They have no legal requirement to disclose anything to you. So the last time Temasek wrote the newspaper, we are already disclosing a lot to you even though we don't have to. See, that's the problem in Singapore, right? How can you have a sovereign wealth fund that says I already very kind to you now. I'm disclosing more than what I'm required to disclose to you. So you factor all this in, which is information that we do not have access to. It's not possible to figure out how much they started, how much they put in the middle, how much they... No, I'll give you an example. Changi Airport was transferred to Changi Airport Group, which is owned by Temasek. When went the Parliament to debate this issue? Listen to this, huh? Parliament approved the transfer of Changi Airport without price. What Parliament in the world will allow a state asset, a strategic one like an airport, to be transferred? In this case, a private entity, okay, Temasek, without a price. So Parliament said, okay, transfer. When you transfer this, you are selling something, right? Don't you want to know the price? Nobody asked. So anyway, after when everything was done, the price came out, 3 point something billion. It is so low. It's like post-bank transfer to, there are so many occasions in Singapore where assets were transferred at much, what you call below market value kind of valuation. And the Changi Airport is just one example. Right? So that's my answer to your question. But a lot of people have done, like Beijing professor has done some, projections. So my best estimate, if you ask me, is I believe the reserves are probably around $1 trillion. And the return historically probably very lousy, maybe about 2%. Because what the professor in Beijing University is trying to tell you is this, and it's all over the internet. He says, if you have all these surpluses over the years, then you accumulate them, and then it comes to the returns. Then if the return is 17%, the reserve cannot be so little, unless the return is very little. So he's making two, should I say, hypotheses, or rather he's saying two possibilities. One, he says, either the return is very lousy, then the amount that people are speculating is correct. Or if the returns are correct, then a lot of the money must be disappearing somewhere because they cannot find it anywhere. I don't think it's the latter. I mean, I don't think your money is disappeared somewhere or something, right? I think it's because the returns is very lousy. And because the way they calculate the returns is not the right way of calculating the returns. That answer your question? Not really right. Every question that you ask me always open up even more questions. And the key question is really transparency and accountability. Right. Without this, you cannot figure out anything at all. Look at electricity pricing. Now, if you are, I volunteered to do financial counseling, so been doing it for 10 over years. Every time you meet people who are poor, they all have the same problem. They cannot pay the electricity, okay? They got no money to take the bus, so they walk 1 over kilometer, right? Or even longer, whatever. There are all kinds of, no money for this, no money for that. And the problem in Singapore is your basic goods and services give what I call primarily state-owned companies that are essentially monopolies. Right? Your electricity is monopoly, only one company. You know how much Singapore Power made in profits last year? I think it's 800 billion. It's so interesting. For the first time ever, when they increased the electricity tariff, this year they came up with a new reason. This year they said, part of the reason for the increase because we need to invest in more infrastructure. If you make 800 billion a year, over the years you must have made 10 over billion. How come all this money you never invest in infrastructure? Now you have to increase the tariff in order to increase the infrastructure. There are all kinds of issues, not just with public transport or electricity, all the basic goods and services, right? Healthcare, public housing, they all have issues. HDB 1 year famously said, the previous minister, hey, HDB suffers a loss of 2 billion a year because we are selling flats to you at a subsidized rate. So let me explain very easy, right? You go to the hospital, you see the bill. Class C, 80% subsidy. Then you ask the hospital, $10,000, they say you got subsidy 8,000. Does it mean that the government actually give you 8,000? If it's your friend, no, we don't get 8,000, okay? This is just for show on the bill only. What we get is some average based on the estimated number of different procedures. It probably come up to about 50-60%, right? So it's a paper. Look, sometimes if you have a nagging feeling that the statistics are not right, you just have to use some common sense. Why is it when you go to the hospital, the doctor will say, hey, you have this problem, actually not very serious, but you never know. Okay? So you subsidize patients, or you wait 3 months, then I can test you. But don't worry, son, normally not very serious. No. But if you're willing to pay the non-subsidized rate, next week I can do for you. And I do for you, it's not any doctor who's on duty that day. You think all my doctor friends have to talk like that to every patient every day. They don't have a choice. They have to collect enough money from the non-subsidized patient to cover the subsidized patient because there's not enough money going around. Well, I think my friends who are doctors and nurses run around the island every year to raise funds, to pay for patients who cannot pay for healthcare. Why do you have to do that when there's Medifund? Medifund is another very classic thing, right? Every conference you go, like the one I just came back this morning, they say, "Wow, Singapore very good, Nobody will deny healthcare. You are poor, don't worry, okay? Sure, we will pay for you. What's the criteria for Medifund? Secret, But we know, I tell you, all your family members' Medisave that can be used must be used also already. All your family members must have hardly any money left in the bank, like $4,000 or something. Then you apply Medifund, then you get. That's provided you don't live in a flat that is too big for a private property. If you do, then straight away you are denied Medifund. Also, if you are lucky enough, then in a C or D2 ward. If you go and see a private GP, you go to the hospital, you cannot go to C and D2, straight away you go to the higher class ward. So you have to say, wait, I go polyclinic, queue up, come back again, then I can go to C and D2 ward. The last time they asked in Parliament, people will go to higher class ward, then they request for downgrading. What is the success rate? 1%. So 100 of you choose a higher class ward. When you find you cannot pay because instead of stay 1 week or you stay 3 months, I said, how to downgrade? You have a 1% chance of success after means testing. Now you know why nobody wants to go into the higher class ward. Because once news get around, people get frightened, right? We do financial counseling. We meet people who sell the HDB flat, become homeless to pay for their medical bill. I just met one person, owed the town council $600. Then the legal letter came, said maybe he can sell his flat. He was so frightened, he borrowed money from the along. The $600 to look to 10 over 1,000. Wow, his whole life was ruined. Right? If only he had come to us, we would have told him, town council need to pay one. Why? Those comes to us, go to court, judge say fine, cannot pay fine, go to jail one day. Right? It's like, one day, a new holiday destination. For you have been doing it for years, right? But a lot of people do very silly things because they don't understand the implications. Look, you cannot blame the guy. When you receive a letter says, if you don't pay up the $600 under the town council act, we can sell your flat. Oh, the guy maybe borrow along what you won't pay. Okay. We're supposed to finish what time now? Now. 8:30. Okay, then questions and what questions?
This news, very common news about sovereign fund investments in financing establishments during the Lehman Brothers to make big losses. But don't worry, because investments are for long term. In your opinion, what do you mean by long term?
It's a very interesting question because the funniest debate we ever have in Parliament, is the year of the crisis. All the MP went to us, hey, how much money you lost? This was something along this line. The answer was, okay, we know that it's important for you to know, but then, we cannot tell you. So that was the answer in Parliament. So basically, they said, the people and the MPs, you all can go and die, right? I'm not going to tell you how much money we lost. But interestingly, 1 year after the crisis, then the annual reports came out. We know exactly how much money one of them lost. $69 billion in that year. The other one we don't know because they never disclosed the loss in that year. So add together, I don't know, maybe 100 billion in 1 year. That's why I said earlier, you cannot find fund managers like what we have for our sovereign wealth fund. Right? No matter whatever they will win the champion prize for being the worst performing fund manager in the history of the world. I hope that answers your
Is that paper
question.
loss or real loss?
Paper loss or real loss? We also don't know. See, they don't tell you what they do with their assets. It could be paper, it could be not paper, it could be anything. Now, the problem is this. Let's say, Angela, you win the next election. Okay? Then you say, Singaporeans, what is the thing that you want to change most? They all say, I want my CPF at 55, right? You got problem, you know why? The amount owing to you in total, CPF, I think it's about 200 plus 300 billion. So if overnight we say, oh, you can have your money back at 55, then maybe a cash flow problem. No? How to go and liquidate all these assets, like say paper loss or whatever, right? So these are, but we are all speculating. We have no idea what's going on. Okay, it's all like one big mystery. The interesting thing about Singapore is somehow we know the answer is there. Often we get a glimpse of the picture due to whistleblowers. Not whistleblowers. Sometimes I receive the mail. They're not right also, no. Because they will tell me, this is how it works, but cannot verify. But from there we can make a guess and then try to look at other so-called public sources and try to make some speculation. Then you notice when I write, every line is a question mark because I don't know. Right? They say, how come your entire article all question marks? Because I don't know. Look, there's a world of difference between saying, I think I believe, I said, the return is 2%. I will get sued for defamation. If I say, looking at this and this and this, does it mean the return is only about 2%? Then I don't have a problem with it. Right? So today you understand why so many question marks. I think Vincent can testify to this. I cannot even afford to pay half like you know.
Can you speculate, based on the last two questions? The government's argument is that full disclosure, will lead to speculative attacks and various other vulnerabilities.
Oh, this is nonsense because you just disclose your old data. Don't disclose the last year or the last 2 years.
What kind of window?
Yeah. You say last year, last 2 years cannot disclose. All the past one can disclose.
Because there's lack of accountability. Is there any, do you think there may be any misuse of funds?
Okay, seriously, I don't think the funds have been misused. Maybe I will use the word
How about pilfer?
not pilfered, it's even worse. Let me say, maybe arguably, comparatively, on a relative basis, has not been managed very well. Because otherwise, you don't have all these so-called questions. No, seriously, I don't think anybody is, as the words you use, right? Because, how should I put it? See, in Singapore, statistically, you can see if you come from a rich family, you have a higher chance to everything in life. Even all the scholarships go to rich families, don't make sense, right? Whether it's your career, everything in life, right? It's the elites, the richer, the more educated people get it. So there is, to me, no reason to take money that does not belong to you. Because you already have a lot of money. The system of meritocracy ensures that if you're of the right pedigree, you don't have to use the words that you describe to take money. It's a given in life. So why? I'll give you an example. Nigerian dictator Sani Abacha. When he was deposed, they found something like a few $100 billion in his basement. Now, here's the problem. Why does he need a few $100 billion? You look at all these dictators, they embezzle billions. Why do you need billions of dollars? You don't need, no? You know why? They have no concept of money. They just keep collecting. So I'm trying to give you an analogy. If I say, I'm trying to do this in a very subtle way. Okay, if I say I give you a very high pay, then why you want to take money? Because the pay is more than enough for you, right? Right? So this is why I say I don't think your question, the answer is authoritative. Because there's no reason. Look, the problem with taking money, whether it's in Singapore or any country, of course nowadays it looks like sex is a bigger problem than money. Okay? But in every country, if you take money illegally, big problem, no. Go to jail, you might be assassinated, you might be hanged, your family will be exiled, right? So if you have a meritocratic system and you already have a lot of money, why should you do it? And that's why we are ranked as the least corrupt country in the world. There's no need to be corrupt. Right? I was speaking at a corruption conference in Siberia in Russia. So after the whole conference on corruption, 3 days. So I was invited because Singapore ranked least corrupt. So after I explained everything to them, what the audience say, isn't that legalized corruption? I said, no, I didn't say that. Yeah, because to the Russians, if your pay is very high, then there's no need to be corrupt. Because you don't run the risk of being corrupt.
That was the reason. That was exactly the reason why they gave high pay. Exactly.
Yeah. So I think that's why they have ministerial pay review. Okay, yeah. Because I think come to the stage where you pay too much, very hard to get talent. All my friends, that's a very simple analogy. If you come from the right pedigree, okay, I'm from Raffles Institution, so right pedigree, okay. Then you come from the right school, you have the right education, you are successful in life, you have a lot of money, and somebody asks you, hey, you want to serve in government? 20, 30 years ago, it's an honor and a privilege to serve in government. Everywhere you go, people say, wow, this guy is great. Okay? Today, sad to say, most of my friends say, wow, no way, okay? Everywhere I go, people scold me, I attended a funeral of one of my schoolmates. This is a classic one. 2 ministers came. Wow. Everybody was saying bad things about them. If only they could hear what was going on, So, can you imagine in this kind of scenario, the real talented people who have been successful in life, who are rich and therefore willing to serve without money, will never serve because it's no longer seen as something, privilege or that you'll be respected, right? Our poor president, at his nomination, people boo at him, right? So, will you want to do that? So it's a balance. When you pay too much, I think you have this problem that the real talents are like, I mean, who else in his right mind, who's a successful surgeon, will go and stand in a by-election anymore? So this idea of paying more to get the right people, has fallen flat on its face, in my view. Any other questions?
Do you think anyone in our government actually has a cogent?
What is the best question of the time? I give you the statistical honor, right? What's the best question? I have many friends in government, and honestly, they always ask me what they don't know. I give you a classic example. A very funny letter I wrote, I think was last year. Because according to the MOM, last year's median wage increased by, I think, 1%. That's not I said, this is 2011. Letter is 2011, according to MOM, median wage in Singapore increased by 1%. Then the Prime Minister's office, they came up with a number of minus 0.6%. So I wrote the newspaper now. I said 2 different government departments, right, using the same data, right? How come MOM said increase 1%, PMO said minus 0.6%? So the clarification came up. MOM and PMO clarified. The 1%, excuse me, the 1% increase according to MOM is including employer CPF contribution. The PMO one is excluding employer CPF. And they went on to clarify that because government can increase the CPF contribution at will, it wouldn't be right to include the employer CPF contribution because our bonus depends on the real income increase. So rightfully the PMO say they don't use. So this is the best answer to your question. The left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. Right? Look, your question has a deeper problem, and that is if the people who make decisions on policy don't know themselves, how do they end up making the right policy? Right. If you don't know whether people are getting more pay or less pay, then you may keep on saying, even today in the paper I read, oh yeah, don't worry, increased pay wouldn't be, cost wouldn't mean higher business costs and pass down to consumer because pay will have to increase with productivity. This song of that pay must go on authority, they sing it for years and productivity keep on going down. They're still singing the same old song. Right? The statistics on pay in Singapore is so bad. My heart pains whenever I analyze labour statistics. Because it's worse than being detained for 20 over years. You know what? At least you got free food, you got free place, right? I give you the statistic. From 1990 to 2000, the real increase in the median wage was 6.4% per annum. This is our golden age. Okay? 1990 to 2000. From 2000 to 2012, I estimate, why I say estimate? From whatever data I can get, that's how I calculate that. After I'm not a real statistician. I estimate from 2000 to 2012, that 12 years, the real increase in the median wage was only 0.4%. 0.4%. 10 years only got 4% increase, So if your pay is 1,000, 10 years later you're paid $1,040 in real terms. It's terrible. You take 6.4, you divide by 0.4, that's 16 times, In other words, in the 1990s, you were getting 16 times more real pay increase than in the last 12 years. By any measure, any government in the world with this kind of labour statistics, would be apologizing for morning to night leave and implementing the minimum wage, whatever. But we're not doing that. I don't understand, Your poor cleaners, in 2000 they were earning a median pay of 1,277. Now it's like 900 plus. Haven't adjusted for inflation yet, no? Once you adjust, effectively, if you are cleaner, you've gotten a 40% pay cut over the last 10 years or so. Now, Singapore is a very unique country. We have tremendous age discrimination. Every media report you read, they tell you, don't have age discrimination. Where is the evidence? The evidence is lying in your face. Look at the wage data. So many jobs, as you get older, your pay drop. Sales workers, any kind of worker, service worker, as they get older, the pay drop. Find me any country in the world where, as you get older, they will pay you less. That is clearly age discrimination. You don't need to do survey, no need to have statistics. Just look at the wages. Any more questions?
Yeah, since 1987, this excellent thought science people. Now, after such a long time, people are becoming more vocal. What do you think the government will do? What sort of block they will come up to silence people effectively, or do you think?
So I decline to answer. There's no statistical way to answer. What plot I think the government will do to come and fix you. But I give you a recent example. I don't know what's a good example. Okay, better not say exactly what example. But once in a while you will have cases where people suffer some very bad thing, right? Then everybody will say, yeah, how come you do this to this person? Doesn't make sense. Everybody will be unhappy. You will lose votes. Then why do they keep doing it? As I started at the beginning of my presentation, maybe people do stupid things that they know that some people will not be happy and they may lose some votes, but at the end of the day, on the balance, statistically, it works in their favor. Why? Sa yi jing bai. You frighten, you do something to this person, wow, he tells the whole world. Then the whole world is frightened. Then we are back to 1987. Right? All the dissenting voices will disappear. All the parents will tell the children, don't come to 22 Marshall Road. You know? So, my answer to your question is, I think strange things continue to happen, right? In my view, maybe the reason is to frighten people out. Otherwise, why do it? Don't make sense, right? So, let me give you a tip. You must be like the people who were detained. In other words, you must suffer in silence. If everybody, when bad things are done to you, and we all keep quiet, then it's pointless doing bad things to people because nobody knows. And nobody knows it's not a deterrent anymore. But easier said than done. When people suffer, they will, now got internet, they will Twitter, as they are, as they are being doing what has been done to them. Right? But all this, in my view, does not bode well for this thing about statistics and the Marxist conspiracy. Because when bad things happen and you tell the whole world, more people will be frightened and the voices will eventually become softer.
Yeah, you're flying the face of what, let's say the group of us who hibernate at Marshall Road are exactly doing. We want to tell the world what happened.
Let me just continue. Some people need to tell the world. Some people need to keep silent. You need different people to do different things. Not everybody can be a politician, not everybody can be a blogger, not everybody can run a civil society, right? The battle has been fought on many fronts, right? But what I'm saying is, in terms of the motive, right? If somebody does something to you, you will ask yourself, why did this person do it? If he wants you to tell the whole world and you do it, are you not playing to the game that the person who is doing this to you want you to play? So the smart thing to do is don't play the game. But today, very strange, I think it has come to the state where oftentimes you go on the internet and you see, sometimes I suspect, actually nothing happened, they also, claim that something happened. So after a while, it's like nobody believes what really is going on. People will say, oh, bad things happened to me. But actually, it didn't happen. You just say it. How to verify, right? But here's the problem. You look at many countries, particularly in Africa, where you have a lot of dictators and democracy is terrible, human rights abuses, and all that. They have honed this to the art. They have come to the state where they allow so much chatter to go on that the normal person does not believe anything that they hear or see anymore. I think we haven't come to that state yet, because I think we haven't come to the state of what we call media anarchy, right? In many countries, governments actually pay people to say bad things about them. So that after a while, nobody believes it anymore, right?
I think it's beginning to be like that.
Yeah. Look, you study history, statistically, what is the most effective way? Earlier I said, what's the effective way of silencing people? You frighten one, frighten overload. What is the most effective way of silencing what you call the growth of social media? Let it grow. Wow. Let as many people talk as much rubbish as they want. That is the most effective way. Because then after a while, nobody knows whether it's real or not. Then people don't really believe it anymore. Fortunately, so far, I think the people who are trying to regulate the internet haven't gotten down to this smart move yet. They still, I belong to 2 organizations that were gazetted as a political association, which was the best thing that ever happened to us. Because the moment you're gazetted, more people visit your site, more volunteers come, right? More people donate money. It's like a cash lottery, you know. Right? If I want to control the internet, I will ignore all these people and encourage as many people to talk nonsense as possible. So that after a while, the so-called social media will wipe itself out because it will no longer have any credibility. Hope the people who decide on internet regulation don't see this part of the video, because if they do this, then we are finished now.
Censored.
Yeah, no, it's okay. No need to censor anything.
Don't post.
That is no, you can post it. It's okay. I think I've come to the stage where whatever I say, whatever I write, nobody responds to me. So I always say I can talk nonsense, so nobody cares. Right? And I think in jest, maybe the reason is this. I'm quite sure quite often I'm talking nonsense too, because I'm speculating, I'm taking from all kinds of sources. So I'm sure I made a lot of mistakes. But I think here's the problem. If they say, Leong Sze Hian, you made a mistake here, then I'll say, okay, I made this one mistake, right? I've written 2,000 more articles. Can you find some more mistakes for me? I'm quite happy to say I don't think my error rate will be more than 1%. I think that is the reason why nobody cares about me. Right? Because when you have too much, then statistically, it's no longer effective to take you to task for making a mistake. Because I can simply say it's an honest mistake, statistically. Because if this one is wrong, what about the other 2,000 plus? Find me more than 1%, I buy you dinner. Now, increasingly, this is an interesting question. Over the years, I dare say that what I write is becoming more accurate than ever, thanks to whistleblowers. Now, often the things that I write are not really written by me. People write things, they are afraid to put their name to it. They send it to me, I check the sources, and I edit it, and I change it. Then it becomes like, you just like the article I wrote on the, what you call the budget. You see, it's written by NC and Leong Sze Hian. CC and Leong Sze Hian, something like that. What does CC stand for? Concerned citizen. This gentleman said, no way I'm going to put my name. Right? Actually, in that case, he sent it he tried to get it published by some programs. So I met him and I said, it's a very well written piece. Why don't I try to get it out? Yeah. And I saw the hand somewhere. Was it here?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you, if comes 2016 and the opposition forms the government, what do you think would happen with the reserves and all the...
I don't think anything will happen.
Nothing will happen.
Yeah. Because if something happens, then you will be hauling all these people to court for the bad things that they are doing. Right? Statistically, I know of no historical example where in a change of government, the outgoing government does, I think, if I'm reading you, do the things that you think they will do. Because it's not in the interest of doing it. You know what I mean? If you have lost the game, you just, leave and you collect whatever you accumulated. Right? Why do this and take the risk, right, of, it's like South Africa, right? Why take the risk of bringing back the past? Right? So I don't think your fears I would say your fears are unfounded. Yeah. Nobody will take the money and run or say you cannot use the money and all that.
Yeah, the president has the other key, so maybe we can't use the money.
In my view,
change the constitution.
I'm not expert on the president's powers. Of course, constitutionally he can, but I doubt, right? Anyone who does that will be cursed by all future generations of Singaporeans. I don't see anyone today who is capable of taking on that role. Most of the people that I know in government are quite nice people like me lah. They won't do things like this lah. I mean, it doesn't make sense, right? Maybe not. You are successful, you have built a reputation, then you want to do something like this. All your children will go to the street, people will spit at them. Nobody will do it. This is what I call, something to make you frightened, which in my view can never happen. It has never happened.
But we have been under one government for 50 years. So
the civil service runs the country, right? They will still be there. What's the difference? If you ask me,
But it has been a PAP-led civil service, let's face it.
Okay, let me put it this way. As a civil servant, there's a change in government. You want to risk your rice bowl by doing what you're not supposed to do as a civil servant? You won't. At the end of the day, nobody, in my view, will stick the neck out and do something that is unacceptable, illegal, right, for the sake of doing it.
Someone had postulated a black swan event. Should the opposition come in, the army will step in. What do you think is the possibility?
Like I said in the beginning, frighten, fix one to frighten many. This one even better. Use the black swan, which will never happen. You think anybody in the army will do that, even if they are ordered to do so? I don't think so. No way. Line up 100 national servicemen, ask them, will you take up arms against your own people or not, if the government changes? I bet you 100% answer is no. So, I think I'm getting all these questions like, I think some of you are detained for too long, I'm sorry I say that, but all this, like, you imagine that God goes in front, God goes behind. Don't worry, you look at history, every country goes through these processes, nothing happens, right? They only frighten you, it won't happen. Because if it happens, they will be worse off than you are. That's the good thing about meritocracy. There's no need to take such drastic measures. Why? Anyway, we're all waiting for the AIM review to come out, right? So hopefully that will determine, to answer your question, that things like this probably will never happen again. I think for you, yeah. Yes?
What do you think what do you think emboldens the PAP to do what they have done for the AIM issue?
All very difficult questions. I make a guess, long time ago, somebody thought it was a good thing to do, right? So they did it So after a long time, probably a lot of people forgot they did this, right? Then nobody expects this thing to come out, right? Now that it come out, we all wait and see what happened. In life, it's very hard to say on hindsight, why did we do such a stupid thing? Why did we detain all these people under the Marxist Conspiracy? It's a very stupid thing to do. You know why? Everywhere you go in the world, I just came back from a civil society conference. All these conferences I go, the moment they say you're from Singapore, they say, oh, worst country in the world. Right? All the things that you do to people like you comes back to how you, not just in your lifetime, in your future generations. You study history. Every country where people in power do bad things. I'm not saying, because you still don't have a commission of inquiry, so I cannot say for sure that what they did to you was a bad thing. I'm just saying, every country you study history, when people in power do things that are bad, okay, the ending is not good. It's like your TV serial and the movie. The bad one always end up, the outcome is not good. I think there was a question here. Yes.
I was wondering what you think of this Singapore conversation that they have initiated. Is it just a PR thing now that they actually silenced real dissent and discussion?
Interesting question. Actually, they should employ me to run their so-called public relations strategy, because it's such a disaster, You know what I mean? I mean, whoever is doing public relations is doing such a botched up job, You know, you have a national conversation, then you come up with a 6.9 million population paper that nobody knows, Right? It's crazy, isn't it? So I don't really have an answer to your question. Other than that, maybe you are fortunate that your opponents today are not very good at what they're trying to do. I would have done it in a much, even if I told you I'm an amateur statistician, right? I know nothing about public relations, but I'm sure I can do a better job, than what they have done. It's nonsensical. It's like shooting yourself in the foot, right? Every week, every week you're shooting yourself in the foot. The one question I have in mind always, I cannot understand. They cannot be all so stupid, so often, and so frequent, and all the time, right? It does not make sense. It's supposed to be talent. Something is wrong somewhere,
They got a hole in there.
I suspect we may have come to a stage where we call wisdom of the crowd or group thing. Okay? After a while, I think some people will say, okay, I think I will do this. I know it's a very stupid thing to do, but I think the people will think that this is the thing that I should do. So even though it's very stupid, I will still do it. Because when I don't do this stupid thing, I try to do some smart thing, I may be out of my job. So why should I care? Right? I'm speaking like some of my friends, they tell me, people learn from experience. If you are brave and you dare to say, I think this is a stupid thing, this is the right thing, and the guy who says it is sent into exile or sent to hibernation. After that, nobody will try to be smart. Everybody will say, before I say anything can go wrong or not? Got a risk or not? Should I be kiasu or not? Now, if everybody thinks like that, then everybody keep doing stupid things, saying stupid things, day after day. And at the day, they say, after all, everybody is doing it. So if we are all stupid, does it mean that we are all smart actually? So to me, that is the problem. I cannot imagine the things that you read in the newspaper. It's so ridiculous. But that's the good thing about Singapore today. It's quite fun, the things that go on. No other country can you have all this, I would call like comedy central, day in and day out, right? The AIM one was one of the best one, I tell you. Yes, there was a question right behind the gentleman.
To connect the dots on the title of the talk. In my opinion, based on statistics, what do you think why Workers' Party appears to me to shirk away on human rights, and having not mentioned anything about Marxist Conspiracy, not even on the anniversary?
One university in Singapore set up a human rights center. Then they sell invitations to everybody who come for the opening. Then all of a sudden they said they have to close it down. Then someone was quoted as saying, because the word human right no problem, then they refund the money to the person who donated the money to start the center. Okay, so this has something to do with your question. I think the answer to your question is this. A lot of people are afraid. Afraid of what? All these things that we have done in the past. One day, what if, recently they had WikiLeaks, right? Last week they had this WikiLeaks of all the offshore accounts. We're still waiting to see who in Singapore the name is inside. So this is a real fear of a lot of people. One day, if a WikiLeaks come out of that gives you the answer to all the questions you've been asking tonight. What do you think will happen? What disaster for a lot of people again. A lot of people will take the next budget airline out and don't come home already. Right? And I think that is the reason why better to just completely ignore all this stuff. Because if you allow a human right, it's like if you allow one thing to come out, it will lead to other things. Like when I started, if you allow all of you to carry on doing what you were doing in 1987, there will be more awareness, there will be more voices. People will be asking for statistics, people will be comparing statistics, right? Then today, people are comparing statistics of that time with today. There is no end, it's like a Pandora's box. Okay? So this is my view, why we are not opening up transformation or not after elections. The reality in my view is we are not opening up. You cannot blame, I think if you study history, you cannot blame people from not opening up. Because there's so many things in the past that once you open up, it's like, I don't know what word to use now. It's like, all of a sudden, you are bearing yourself for the whole world to see, It's like being naked, right? Nobody wants to do that.
My view is that the general population will be a bit afraid. But as a political party, how can consistently avoid this question and not making comments at all? That's my question.
I'm not a politician, so I cannot answer your...
Not a political party.
Yeah.
That's a very great job consistently.
Yeah, that's why today you see I'm very open, saying things that you don't imagine I ever see in my life, Right? I've been invited by practically every political party to speak at whatever event or how they have. I never talk like this one. Because you are okay, you are heartless. Okay?
Can I ask you a statistical question, which is in your specialty, statistics? Now, Singapore's population, before this influx policy, 2.5 million, 3.5 million, they opened the doors to new immigrants in the hope that these new immigrants would vote in the PAP to power. That's the thinking, right? It comes to a point, maximum 6.9. Would these new immigrants be the very ones that will topple the PAP? Because they have no norms, no ideas about councillism, and they have foreigners, new immigrants, different thinking, different orientation from the Bumiputra Singaporean, who's always council, don't rock the boat, blah blah blah, and what. What's your perspective?
My take on this is, statistically and historically, and your question is about voting patterns, right? It's very hard for the opposition to win in Singapore for a few reasons. Number one, the boundaries can be changed. Statistically, it's almost impossible to win because we can look at the data and see who is voting for who and where, right? So purely by the changing of boundary already, it's like you are playing a football team, the other side got 11 people, you got 8 only, right? Because straight away they can do that. Second, in my view, new citizens normally will vote for the incumbent because you probably obviously not a new citizen or you don't have a lot of new citizen friends, I believe. Because if life is good, right, why rock the boat? We do financial counseling. All the poor people we talk to, sometimes we become our friends, we ask them, hey, who you vote for? The answer is always the same. Why? Because to poor people, what little they are getting, it means a lot to them. They won't rock the boat. And that's why despite all the noise in the last election, you see, but by-election effect is different now because no difference right now, right? Whether you vote, that's why it's a different story. You do, if you can read the hearts of all the voters, nobody in the right mind in right view will want to change the government. They want more opposition, but they don't want to change the government. Okay? Because the biggest so-called overhanging axe is not the upgrading or this, HDB old flats I'm talking about. The biggie is most people are afraid of a change in government. Because like many of you have asked, you change government, what if nothing works anymore? My software don't work anymore, how? Maybe not. So actually, to me, that's a very smart move. You may look stupid, you may be scolded by so many people, but you will win a lot of votes. Because a lot of people say, yeah, software also don't have. Then maybe other things also don't have. I think better vote the same one. Correct. That's my thing. I'm not a politician. Right? It's very hard to, unless something, anyway, you study history, rise and fall of the Roman Empire, the Greeks, whatever, everything go up, must come down, right? Only thing is that it's a gradual process, and chances are rarely we get a sudden kind of a shift, right? And that's why you see that in some of the past elections, oppositions were using what they call the by-election strategy, also didn't work. You are guaranteeing that, don't worry, you vote for me because we will never form the government. I saw a couple more hands here.
Yeah, as a government statistician in the past, I want to know whether the public or third parties from other countries can get hold of these statistics from the government. Are they available to this group of people? And if they are, my next question is that how reliable are they?
You talk about other countries' statistics?
No, I mean public, from Singapore public, if they want some of these statistics, whether it's political or trade statistics or whatever, will the government statistical department provide such?
Yeah, they'll be very helpful.
And if they,
in Singapore, civil servants are very efficient.
Yeah, but
normally, whatever you ask, they will give you. Yeah.
So my next question is that how reliable are they?
Okay. I used to be a columnist for Malaysia KD, and it's very hard to find statistics in Malaysia. The good thing about Singapore is the statistics are there. You just have to find it. The good thing I think about our statisticians here, they give you, it's like they give you so many potholes for you to shoot. Only you got to find it. The report comes out 300 pages. On page 201, table 9A, footnote F, there is one line that is a significant change from previous years. How are you going to figure it out? Unless you're like me, every time report come out, I come to the state where I kind of like Sherlock Holmes. I have a feel, right? When they say things like, the number of poor students actually don't matter. Then I go and take the statistics there. I say, the statistics don't make sense. So it's there, believe me, it's there. I tell you a joke. I've been doing this, making fun of other people every other day for like 10 over years, right? So a lot of people invite me for tea, because you have friends, like my friend, like you, work in government or what. So anyway, free tea I always go, right? So after a while, they get to know you better. This is what they may say to you. Hey, Leong Sze Hian, every time you write one article, then, especially you write on Friday, problem, because the minister call, whole department stay there overtime, whole weekend, Monday you answer your. So, anyway, you know us, know me so well, give us your article 1 week in advance. So I said, okay, no problem. I give you what do I get in return? Okay, don't worry, I know what is you like. I will tell you, page 169, table C, you go and see, something has changed. It's okay. So I scratch your back, you scratch mine. So statistics very interesting, You develop friendships. All the people I make fun of, when I meet them, we become so buddies, more or less, Because, you see, how should I put it? They are trying to hide, you try to find, hide and seek. Without you, there's no game to play. Same for me, without them, there's no game to play also. I'm serious this one now. Most of the things that we are asking is there somewhere. You just have to find. Like this young man who actually took the trouble to check year by year all the statistical reports. You see, here's the difference. And that's why maybe parliamentarians play a very important role. Let's look at the budget surplus. A person can go to parliament and say, okay, why don't you include the land sales? Well, the answer is, you heard me say earlier, right, well, because it's capital to this, and then land will run out, then finish, because the debate is over. But if the question is asked, let's say in a slightly different way, according to your last 10 years statistical reports, following IMF standard as quoted in your own report, there was $169 billion of difference in the surplus between the reported budget surplus and the DOS surplus. Then it's different, because your question is being backed up by your own statistics. I would like to say, you can argue until the cows come home, but when I use your statistics to ask you why, there's no answer, And that's why it's my hobby to analyze statistics, because it's like once in a while, it's I found this, it's like treasure hunt.
So can I add on some more?
Yeah.
So we are trying to say that statistics will lead to different interpretation of the figures from different people. Okay, let's say one party interprets the statistics this way based on this method. Another party will interpret it in a more, let's say, social and humane way. They give a different interpretation of the outcome. Are we to say that that second party could be defamed or interpreting wrongly the statistics and the information?
Of course.
So that's a danger in that sense, isn't
Of course, right? And that's why you find that I'm always using official statistics. People send me one, I don't use. But what people send me is more useful, because from there I can figure out what are the right questions to ask. I'll give you one example. A few months ago, you saw a media report. Employment pass go down for the first time. Most people don't read the headlines, right? Listen to radio, TV, then they forget. But when you read in detail, then you realize actually employment pass went down by 1%, but S pass went up by 25%. And many of the S pass were formerly employment pass who simply converted to S plus, and the net result is a 9% increase in total passes of S and E pass. But most people don't bother to do that, and most people will just read the headline. So, most people won't know. Unless you function it, then you go and read all this. You cannot sleep at night. You go to my website, then you read all this line after line of statistics and question mark. Right? Then you will realize, this is funny, isn't it?
So Ian, can I ask the question, flowing from what Angela asked earlier, and it might be a summary of your whole talk today. You identify problems with the data itself. Also, you identify that there are different decision-making entities in the country, and not all will know, left hand, right hand kind of thing. So, I'm just thinking about the Asian financial crisis in 1997 and the huge black hole they found in the Indonesian finances. If you had to speculate, could you tell us what are the 3 to 5 most important questions we should be asking about our public finances, and 3 to 5 people or entities we should be asking them of? Does that make sense?
Well, you want to put your manifesto, okay?
I will credit you.
No, don't credit me. I've always told my friends in the political parties, Quote whatever you want, just don't mention my name. Don't get me sued for defamation or get me in trouble. Okay? I'm a purist. It's my hobby. I do it because it's fun, it's interesting, and some people tell me it's quite meaningful. So that's why I do it. Okay, so no problem. But let me answer your question. To me, the real biggie, okay, is HDB. It's HDB. Because from what I can tell, there are a lot of statistics that if you can get on HDB, will be earth-shattering. Let me give you one example. You know, in 2003, January the 1st, banks were allowed to offer HDB loans. And you follow the parliamentary debate and the statistics, I can tell you why. We came to a state at one point, at this worst point, there were more than 40,000 HDB households who were under financial assistance, meaning they couldn't pay for the HDB flat. That's a lot of people, you know. Now, HDB annual report used to have a statistic every year called HDB households given financial assistance. Then it disappeared for a while. Now, when statistics disappear, that is the best indicator to you. This is the one that answers your question. Because there's no reason to make something disappear. Because if somebody finds out, it's even worse, right? So later on, they put it back as financial assistance for the year. You see the difference? Financial for the year and those given financial assistance. So for the year, maybe 8,000. The whole lot of people, maybe 40,000. Now, on this note, like we say when we analyze statistics, once in a while we are lucky. Say, oh, I caught you by the balls, pardon the language. One year I wrote one letter to newspaper, and I said, every year I ask the same question. I don't expect an answer. But you know the good thing is, sometimes new people come on the job. So new people say, okay, I don't answer the question, right? I'm stupid, so I answer the question. So HDB actually answered and said to me, oh dear Mr. Leong, we don't have the statistics for HDB bank loans. So I wrote back and I said, excuse me, a few years ago they asked in Parliament, your minister was able to give. So you stopped collecting the statistics? You forgot or what? I think the guy lost his job overnight, you know. So my friends in the government, after a while, you get to know them. They say, hey, this is what I'm going to reply. Can you see whether anything wrong? I put you one classic example. This is, HDB one. Long time ago, every answer, they will have one line at the bottom. Oh, don't worry. We will look into your case on a case-by-case basis. You will just have to appeal. So one year I wrote, okay, can you tell me last year how many cases appealed and how many were approved? I know the answer, it was 0. So the guy almost lost his job also. Right? Because they all look stupid, you know. You know what I mean? So that's one HDB. Okay? The next biggie is CPF. What's the purpose of CPF? So that people have enough money when they retire, right? So the last time they reported in Parliament, this was what the minister said. 45% of CPF account holders were able to meet the minimum sum. Then you say, not bad, 45%, right? Minimum sum is 139,000. But you dig further, then you realize that 45% is not all the people who can pick the minimum sum in cash. It includes the people who pledge the property. So you take out the property people, is about half of 45%, which is, let's say, 22.5%. Then you take some more. This data is only for CPF active members. There are about 1.6 million inactive CPF members. Then you look at the active member. If they top up your account last 3 months, your account is active. So actually, there are always different ways of, segregating the data. So by my estimation, only 1 out of 8 Singaporeans who turn 55 actually can meet the minimum sum in cash. This is the most flip-flop failed pension system in the world. You want some more? No, I don't. I'll give you everything. Then the other party will be happy. But these are the. I mean, imagine one day you have a dream. Then you open the newspaper. Wow, this is the front page headline. Let me know. Wow, so many people cannot pay. This statistics is very interesting. They're very creative. When the delinquency statistics starting getting worse, then all of a sudden in 2009, the last financial crisis, then I saw in the media report, the number of people who cannot pay actually dropped. This defies common sense, right? How can the worst crisis, the last 60 years, the number of people cannot pay? So you must go and do some research, go and knock the HDB flat. But for us, people who do financial counseling, quite easy. Every day we see people who have this kind of problem, so we ask them, then we discover the secret. You know the secret? If you cannot pay, the guy will tell you, hey, you better sell your flat in the open market. Because you wait until I come and do compulsory acquisition, I only give you 90% of my valuation. Then you lose your COV, your cash flow valuation. You better pay. The valuation is based on the date of notice of compulsory acquisition, not the date of acquisition. I have one case. He had a notice like 2 years ago. The flat was valued at 229,000. By the time he took his flat, it was worth 360,000. They valued it at 229, less than 10%, no COV. So when you do this, nobody will wait for compulsory acquisition. Everybody will sell. And once you sell, what happens? You disappear from the delinquency statistics. That's why you see so few people cannot pay. How come so few people the flats don't get acquired? Because nobody will wait for acquisition. How come bank loan statistics don't have? Because more and more people are taking bank loans, less and less people are taking HDB loans. Various reasons, that one will take another 3-hour talk, okay? But it shows you that without the bank data, nobody knows how many people have paid, how many people's flats are being foreclosed. One day if I'm going to die, then they said, you can ask one question only before you go. I will ask this one. Tell me in the history of Singapore, how many people have lost their HDB flats through whatever means, auction, foreclosure, cannot pay, since HDB started. The number must be humongous, right?